So we haven't covered this yet, but that was partly because this was a bizarre mystery that is still going on, and not a lot of people are even really sure, well, how or why the Northeast sea life is still dying off. And this is an ongoing mystery. It's been ongoing now for at least, I believe, a year, if not longer than that. And a lot of people highly suspect that at some point along the Northeast, something is going into the water that clearly should not be going in there. And it is killing off a whole load of sea life. I mean, you can just see the picture here from the Northeast bylines. And it's really shocking. But are we surprised when we've had, especially during this summer and only very recently as well, massive sewage discharges out into the sea? Should we be really surprised that maybe there might be another company, another source out there who might be pumping something they should not be into the sea? Bear in mind, one of the big things that we warned about when we left the EU was that, hey, when we leave the EU, how are we going to sort of replicate all these agencies that we had when we were in the EU? And how are we going to make sure that they are staffed and that we have the numbers to be able to monitor what goes on in many of these cases? And this looks like a clear case that we are certainly failing in that regard. And this is yet another potentially big failure because of Brexit. But recently there has been a select committee and there has been fallout from the select committee as well. So this is something that definitely bears looking into and something that I will be keeping a lot closer eye on, especially on this channel, because, well, to be honest, this is really, really worrying. But let's go, before we get diving into that, please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And also down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, down below, there is the Patreon page, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the YouTube subscription called the Pony Club, where you can join that and you get bells, whistles, and all sorts when you join and sign up to that. So, let's go over to the Northeast bylines with their coverage on this. They've actually had some really good coverage on this. Their reporters on this have been on this since the very beginning. So if you do want to sort of check out sort of more of the history of this and this bizarre mystery that's been going on, then definitely head over to Northeast bylines and read the rest of the articles on this. But this is sort of the latest one, catching up on the fallout of the committee hearing. So let's go diving into it. So, as we said, it comes from the Northeast bylines with the title of Northeast Sea Life Die Off and the Fallout from the Select Committee Hearing. After the hearing of the Common Select Committee, the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs on Thursday, the 25th of October, the Secretary for State for Environmental, Food and Rural Affairs, Theresa Coffey, will do little to placate either side. In October of 2021, thousands of dead and dying crustaceans washed up on the beaches of the Northeast and North Yorkshire. Crabs were the most affected, and more corpses have appeared earlier this year, but other sea life, such as porpoises and seals, the apex predators, have also suffered. DEFRA, or the Department for Environmental, Food and Rural Affairs, blame a toxic algae boom and closed the case. But local residents and fishermen have suspected that the culprit was a toxin in the sediment degraded from the Tees and dumped at sea. More recently, dredging has intensified to improve access to the South Bank Quay. DEFRA's own inquiry found that the industrial chemical pyridine in the die-off crabs was up to 74 times higher than the control crabs down in Cornwall. The new research commissioned by the fishing industry involved the scientists in Newcastle, Durham, Hull, and York universities. The studies have tested the pyridine on crabs and used computer modeling to track the spread of the dredged sediment in offshore waters. And scientists have found that the pyridine has particularly a toxic effect on crabs, and computer simulations in the North Sea currents and tides and after the autumn of 2021 and dredging activity has showed that it would rapidly travel along the coastlines, and areas around Hartlepool and Redcar were the worst affected. The Select Committee decided to hold its hearing to weigh into the conflicting theories of the die-off, and the two sides have given testimony to each side to present their own case. So, what have been the conclusions and recommendations? So, the committee's letter to Coffey called for a further investigation, including a more extensive sampling of the sediment in the Tees estuary, to try and create a map of the potential sources of the priding near the maintenance dredging. The research committee reported this must involve collaboration between government agencies and the wider scientific community, including independent verification of testing. The committee seems to have swallowed the Tories' Tees Valley Mayor Ben Houchen's allegations of the scientists' secrecy with their comment, saying, "We hope this would include the Dr. Cardwell of Newcastle University sharing his research data with all interested parties." In a press release, the university has already declared the scientists' intention to share their work, as has Dr. Cardwell in a Twitter thread. The committee has also recommended that the government's chief scientific advisor should urgently report the matter to an independent scientific panel to review the evidence for both theories and report back to the findings as soon as possible. While the committee has advised the Marine Management Organisation to urgently review dredging activity in the Tees, they did not call for a pause to dredging. But we recommend that the MMO explore what steps could be taken to reduce the risk associated with the capital and maintenance of dredging. The committee advised the MAO must, quote, ensure that all the current conditions of its license are met and should include the pridine in the testing as part of the future licenses approval process. The committee letter also requested that the dredging material should also be tested and, with any dangerous levels of the chemical, should not be disposed of at sea. Testing, also prior to dredging, is not a currently clear legal requirement. The testing for the chemical, as advised by the committee, is viewed as a temporary measure. When the chemical and a coking industry were a product as well as an industrial ingredient, would be very well a permanent legacy pollutant. The disappointment to many will be the advice to continue dredging, saying, "We believe the maintenance of dredging should be kept to the minimum levels to need of the port operation until the expert panel's investigation is completed. But until the cause of the mass die-off is confirmed, more care should be taken in approval of capital dredging," the committee said, saying the committee considers that the MMO should only routinely check for the chemical as part of testing and approval processes with any new capital dredge works. Any current capital dredging work needs new licenses, and issued after the conclusion of the expert panel's investigation must be taken into account of the outcome of this investigation. And where this leaves the current deep dredging of the highly toxic sediment down in the South Quay Bank is now open to question. A dredging moratorium is what Houchen has been dreading, to keep keen to try and crack on with his own flagship project of the Teesside Freeport. He has called anyone with concerns about the environmental disaster a conspiracy theorist, liking their concerns to claims around secret chemical weapons, and opposed to the dredging is led declared by an Extinction Rebellion and the Labour Party. The comment's findings will not fully satisfy anyone, and the continued dredging will not be welcome news to many residents or fishermen. The additional investigation to the national spotlight of the Parliament will also be very awkward for Ben Houchen, who prefers to have full control over his publicity. After hearing what Houchen said, they took the battle to Twitter, saying, "Not only is there zero evidence of the die-offs since 2021, but 11 months before we were dredging, but the evidence now shows the exact opposite of what the Northeastern Inshore Federation and Convention Authority also reporting back in September of 2022 that there is no ongoing concern to the environment." Backing Houchen are the local Tory MPs, Jacob Young, who said this, The experts are saying that dredging isn't an issue. The idea that this would not allow it to inhibit the development on the Tees River. It would also be damaging for the Teesside in the long run. In contrast, Alex Cunningham, the Labour MP for Stockton South, said this in a press release. When Andy MacDonald, the MP, and I issued a call to pause capital dredging in favour of further investigation, the Tees Valley Mayor decried us as playing party politics for salivating at the potential loss of jobs and investment. Nothing could be further from the truth. We believe the people of Teesside and further afield deserve real answers to the ecological disaster that is now blighting our shoreline. And fishermen will welcome the committee's request for the government to further fund and support and finance the restoration of the crab and lobster stocks. So, as you can see, this is a massive still question mark over to what's causing this. Now, it is very clearly, from what we can see, is that this seems to be a legacy issue. That years ago, part of the big coking industry that was there seems to have settled very much on the seabed, and now because of the dredging that is taking place to essentially develop the Freeport of the Tees Valley, which, by the way, is Ben Houchen's ultimate, shall we say, flagship project. He's staked his entire mayoral candidacy on getting that Freeport up and running and making it a success. Is it any surprise that any potential, shall we say, threats to this are now being spun by he's now claiming that, oh, this is just a conspiracy theory. But you need to know what's going on here. And once again, by the way, this is a perfect example of Ben Houchen, who is very much a pro-Brexiteer, saying how much he would love to support the fishing industry when you have fishing industry, crabs and lobsters dying off at a extreme rate. And by the way, this is just, as you can see, this is just one photo. There are even worse photos if you look for this online. He's not supporting the fishing industry. I thought we were all meant to be supporting the fishing industry, Ben. But there you go. This is yet another, still a bit of a mystery, but all the signs are pointing that this seems to be a bit of a very long bit of, well, industrial pollution legacy that dates back to years and years ago, and this dredging that is going on in order to sort of create the Freeport is causing all this massive pollution to be drug up again. And as a result, it is causing a massive ecological disaster. And it's something that should absolutely be investigated. So, like I say, we will keep an eye on this and bring you more, like I say, when we find out about it. But make no mistake, the select committee didn't, shall we say, fully answer the questions, nor has it fully answered the real question of just what is going on along the northeast coast. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee. We can Buy Me Coffee and my Patreon page. And there is the one-off donation link as well down below called the YouTube thank you button, which you can use. And there is the Pony Club as well down below. You can join as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.